afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. Today, folks, I'm going to share with you another great smart home tech item, and that is another smart camera. Now, we do use the word smart camera to kind of lump all these different kind of devices for your home together, and if I misspeak and say it's a smart device when it's, maybe it's technically not, I apologize. Well, I don't really apologize all that much, right? I mean, it's all of these devices are really to make your home smarter, and I think part of being smarter and having a smart home is smart security. Possible home invasion protection. Beefing up strike plates and hinges. There's lots of things you can do to be a smart homeowner, right? That don't necessarily fall underneath or fall under the LifeX bulbs and stuff like that, right? So just kind of take that with a grain of salt, right? So today's another smart camera, and this is by a company called Yeskamo. It's Y-E-S-K-A-M-O. I believe I'm saying that right. Of course, I may not be. A lot of these Asian branded companies generally, their names are sometimes hard to, pronounce. And a lot of times, a lot of these companies don't do their own reviews, right? So this is pretty cool. Now, first off, my first impression, I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to read you guys about the Amazon listing and what the features are of this camera, let you know what it comes with, give you kind of a brief rundown of how to set this up. But really, a lot of companies, I think, that are Asian based, like, always ask me, they're like, oh, can you do a tutorial on how to set it up? And I think it's because of the language barrier there. They think it's going to be easier for the average do-it-yourselfer to set this up, because not everybody's tech savvy, and there's lots of different levels of tech savviness, right? Some folks, will consider this very easy to set up. Other people who are not too used to that. Doesn't mean one person's smarter than another or anything like that. Just means everybody's got kind of a different skill set, and if you're not used to stuff like this, you might have a little bit of an issue, if you're kind of a novice to smart home tech stuff. I'm not going to run you through, a really in-depth setup process. I think that all these devices, no matter what brand, make or model they are, they're all pretty similar as far as the setup. And generally, if you do have a problem connecting to your network, there's something else going on there. Really straightforward. I will say that the easiest thing, or the biggest mistake people make with setting these up, is trying to set them up on a 5 gigahertz network. And generally, if now I don't have internet service provider equipment. I used Ubiquiti gear and a few other products by ASUS. I kind of have a lot of different gear by different brand names spread throughout my network. So I'm pretty tech savvy compared to the average do-it-yourselfer, right? But I'm not a network engineer by any means. You don't have to be to set something like this up. But I'll tell you that a lot of times people will have their phone connected to, let's say, a 5 gigahertz frequency. If your router does not broadcast two separate networks, and you accidentally connect to, let's say, the 5 gigahertz version, and you're trying to set this up on their 5 gigahertz, it's not going to work. Most of these devices all work on the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. Now, when you're setting this up, if you don't have the ability, like my network basically sort of meshes the 2.4 and the 5 together, and the phone or the devices actually automatically connect to what they want to connect to. I'm sure there's ways around that with your phone. I've never set it up like that, but I have had issues with certain brands connecting if your device that you're setting this up with is on the 5 gigahertz spectrum. So just make sure, if you have the ability to connect to 2.4 when setting these things up, do. If not, try to use an older device. I'm not saying this is going to cause a problem if you are on 5 gigahertz. Some of the other brands that I've had, even if you're connected to 5 gigahertz, it'll still just send those Wi-Fi credentials, just standard SSID. If you have, let's say, Bob as your SSID, and let's say it's broadcasting in 2.4 and 5, if your passcode's 1234, this is gonna connect regardless of those credentials, right? It's just gonna connect to the 2.4 because this is what this is gonna connect to. Those credentials are the same. But I have noticed some devices, some apps don't really work too well if you are connected with the phone on the 5 gigahertz and then you're connecting a 2.4 gig device. So just kind of keep that in mind. You may have a problem, you may not. I don't think you will. I think most of these devices are pretty easy to set up. So now, I haven't set this up yet. I haven't tested it. I want to do an unboxing. That was my agreement with this company. A lot of times for me to do an in-depth review, it's just not worth my time a lot of times to get, it depends on the product, right? If a company's going to send me kind of an affordable product, I can't invest or I won't invest, you know, hours of my time setting, testing. That's not what this channel is. It's really an unboxing channel. And of course, when I own these things, I do come back later on and post my experience. Generally, no news is good news. When I do have an issue, I will let you guys know about it. And if I'm really impressed with the product, they usually will get, you know, free other videos because I really like the product. So we're just going to see how this works long term. Yeah, so let me just show you guys what this comes with. So this is a battery-powered camera. There's an onboard battery on this, and they do give you the solar panel as well. The company did want me to mention, they do have an Instagram page, which is Yeskamo. I believe, let me just double check the email here. Yeah, just go to Yeskamo and you should find it on Instagram. I will, by the time this video is uploaded, put a link in the description. You know, I don't know if a lot of people follow. It seems like Instagram is mainly about, you know, people posing and doing selfies. So I don't know, you know, if you're going to go to their Instagram page. I don't do a lot of Instagram. I do a few things kind of for my followers to see kind of my more personal projects, cars, stuff like that. But they did want me to mention it. So Yeskamo, check out their Instagram page. Link is in the description. Also, the link to this camera is in the description if you want to read more. And I always encourage you guys, when you do watch one of my videos, to you know, don't take it from me. I may make a mistake in telling you guys something I've read. It's always best before you make a decision to purchase, read about it on the listing. So link is in the description to this as well. This one is $89.99, and they have another option here that states $120. I can't really see much of a difference between these two cameras. That's why I encourage you guys to check it out. Maybe you'll see the difference. But as far as today, we're just going to talk about only this camera. Let me just show you the box here. Nothing really to write home about. It's a cardboard box. You guys know I don't see the point in really showing off the box. Again, you do get the solar panel. One thing I do like about this solar panel, as opposed to other ones I've seen, it's very thin. Some of the other ones have a much larger frame. Again, not a huge deal. You know, I mean, a little. You know, if it's twice as thick, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna mount this on your house somewhere. Only downside I have to say about these cameras, and this is not the only company who does it. If we look around cosmetically at, you know, most homes have white trim. Now, there are homes that do have black trim and darker trims, and they, of course, you know, they are out there, but it would be really nice if this company actually gave an option to get a white version. I think it's kind of dumb, actually, to make the camera white and the solar panel black. I think if they're going to make a white camera, and the reason why most security cameras are white is because most people's trim on their homes, now, again, don't come back and be like, oh, Fat Cat, here's the statistics. From me looking around my neighborhood and neighborhoods around town, most people have white trim or lighter trim. Every now and then you see the dark browns and the blacks. Totally, this would blend in great, but you know, it'd be really nice if they made the trim on this white. You know what I mean? Now, of course, the panel you're not going to have white because solar panels are black. I don't know if they have lighter colored ones, but just kind of think about this where you're mounting this. Generally, this is pointed more of an upward direction, right? So when you're looking down at it, you're going to see the back. Not a huge deal, because if you want to go ahead and put this face down and do what I've done on some of the other cameras I've had like this, I just put a coat of paint on the back, white, paint the bracket. You know, it blends it a little bit better with the trim, especially if you're getting this really high up on your house. Again, you are limited by the cord, which I'll read you how long the cord is in just a second. But the thing about the solar panel is it actually charges the camera on those bright sunny days. I'll tell you that my cameras, depending on where you live, depending on the solar panel, some solar panels will charge even if it's overcast. Others need direct sunlight. So anything in the sun like that that's black definitely takes a beating. But again, you know, I've had most of the cameras that I have. Actually, let me think. All the cameras that I've had that are solar still work fine. So remember, the battery power, the solar panel, is just to really supplement this camera from you know, going completely dead. It doesn't mean it won't, depending on the amount of motion, the activity of the spot you're putting it. I've noticed if you're in an area that gets, like if it's pretty overcast, let's say you have a week of bad weather, snow, whatever, and I'm not saying this one, but if you're in an area where you're not getting a lot of sunlight and you're in an area with a lot of wind and you're getting the trees are moving and setting these cameras off, because they all get set off by motion like that, you know, you might burn through the battery quicker. So it's always good to put this somewhere where you're going to be able to access it with, you know, maybe a small ladder. My experience in mounting cameras, a good rule of thumb is 10 feet. It's out of the range of people's reach from tampering with it. The solar panel, you can definitely get up higher. So Show you just a couple close-ups here. You get the dual antennas, which is great for that signal. You know, your swivel bracket. This just really allows you to rotate the camera any which way you want. You do have the power port at the bottom. Another downside to a lot of these cameras that are weather resistant, they always put the charging port in this kind of open area where I know it's on the bottom, you know, and it's probably not going to get a lot of moisture in there, but I like to be able to seal it up and keep it weather tight. None of the ones I've reviewed ever have the ability to mount the power cord in there where it's not going to be subjected to any kind of moisture, right? But still, you know, when you do plug it in, it's not like it's, you know, it does have sort of a snug fit. I mean, it's definitely going to keep out some some water, some wind, but it'd be nice to have something a little bit different, maybe with a kind of a boot on this or something like that. But again, very small gripe. If we take off this panel completely, you'll see the micro SD card slot, and again, your on, off, and reset. One thing I hope that this camera has, and this will come in the second video, I hope it has the ability to reboot the camera remotely. A lot of the cameras that I have, believe it or not, don't have the ability to reboot, and some of the ones that do have the ability to reboot, they don't reboot quite like power cycling them. When you unplug a camera and wait for 10 seconds, plug it back in, that's a real true reboot. I find a lot of these cameras do like a soft boot, if I'm using the correct terminology. And ultimately, I got to unplug them anyway to reset them. All devices in this price range, anything residential grade, you know, you are going to have to reboot them at one point or another. It's just the nature of the beast. You know, IP addresses get sticky sometimes. Cameras just kind of act funny. It's just like your phone, if it's acting weird. All electronics, anything smart nowadays does need a reboot once in a while. So I hope they put that technology in there, and I hope it is more of a true reboot. But again, put this in an area where it's not going to be, you know, don't be putting this 3 stories up and, you know, and having to borrow a ladder to get to it, because you might have to get to it at some point. It's not like you can just unplug this. You do have to power cycle it because it does have a built-in battery. So let me just put this down for a second. Let me talk a little bit more about what they say on here. I'm just going to read you the main points. It says here you have dual 5 dBi antennas to assure Wi-Fi. Camera was 50% more 2.4 gigahertz signal. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but you do have the 2 high gain or higher gain antennas. Ultra 3 megapixel HD and color night vision. Adopted, there's a little bit of a language barrier here, cutting edge chip and CMOS sensor. Again, I'm not going to read you all this because you guys can go and I want you guys to read about it yourselves. It does have a 120-degree reviewing angle, smart human motion detection and siren. I'm sure you can turn those all on and off. I'm sure you can. It does have cloud storage, IP65 weather resistance, I like to say. It'll support up to 128 gigabyte micro SD card. That's really about it. Pretty standard across the board. You know, most of these cameras all give you about the same, you know, specifications, the same quality. I will say, though, another thing about this camera that I don't like, it's enormous. This is a gigantic camera. When you compare this to other cameras that do the same thing, they're way smaller. There is no mention that I could see here on the battery life. Let me just read a little bit more. Color night vision. Generally, the color night vision, from my experience, and again, without testing this yet, that it just has a really good CMOS sensor, and it's not actually infrared. Now, I'm not sure if this is yet. It might just be, like I said, I'll have to test this and re-review. And when the company watches this, I'm sure they're going to want me to state exactly what it does. But looking at the listing on Amazon, which is what you guys can do, you'll have 3 megapixel Ultra HD and a sharp night vision. The night vision at night does show black and white, which most of the time, that's an indication of infrared lights. And what I can tell on here, looking at this, I don't see any infrared lights on this. Now, it is possible that they're covered behind this panel right here. You do have an LED light, and I think this is just standard white light. And a lot of times companies will state, oh, well, it's clear color night vision because they're just using a white LED. Now, I'll tell you, depending on your situation, if this is going somewhere really dark and it does not have infrared, you're not going to be able to see much. If it is a camera that just has a really great CMOS sensor, where it takes advantage, basically in a nutshell, it takes advantage of the surrounding light. Like on the front of my house, it's better for me to have the night vision or the infrared off on some of my cameras because it's so well lit. It's like you're seeing exactly how you would with the naked eye. I mean, you can see pretty well. So it just depends. I'll have to test this a little bit more. What else we got here? You get your emotional alerts like anything else. You do have a siren, which I don't think most people are going to use unless you're putting this somewhere which is absolutely still. I never activate sirens because it's just going to annoy myself and neighbors. I've never seen any device so good that it can really distinguish motion in a way that you want to alert a siren. What's most important is for you to get a motion alert. It does have the humanoid detection, which I'll tell you on like brands like Nui, humanoid works really well. Other brands, it doesn't seem to work too well. Hopefully this is one that does, which with that AI technology, it can determine, you know, what's actually a tree moving and what's actually, you know, a human being moving. It says here 4-piece quadruple A level rechargeable batteries. It's kind of interesting that they have that listed. Of course, I don't see how you could replace these batteries, and I don't see any removable panels of any sort. Again, this is why I love owning these things, so I can come back and rear view at a later date should I have to get in here. But it says here, looks the same but not. We adopted 4-piece quadruple level. It says quadruple A level. Never heard of that. AAA. I've heard double A, AAA, quadruple level to rechargeable batteries. Yeah, so I think they're just a standard battery pack like on most cameras. You can set up privacy zones, and I guess if you have their local NVR system, this is compatible with that. Which I hope to collaborate again in the future. Their original email they sent me was showing a 4-camera kit with the NVR. I've been looking for something for a while to replace my Zomato system to see if there's better options out there. Time will tell. I hope that maybe they send me one of those in the near future, and I can kind of link these things together and see if it's better than Zomato and maybe retire that because it is an older system. As far as the app, you're going to use the Yeskamo app. It is available on iOS and Android. And that's really about it. I mean, there's really not too much else I can tell you about this camera. You do have two-way audio. You know, it's all the standard features you're going to find on the thousands of cameras you're going to find on Amazon. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what I can tell you is they all work, you know. What's most important with these things working more seamlessly is really where you locate them, you know. I've had cameras located really high on the house. And, you know, remember, these are all tools in smart home security, you know, tools for you to take a peek at what's going on in your house. Remember to layer your security. Have cameras, have motion detectors, have an alarm system. You know, be proactive about checking those things. Good lighting. All these things help to minimize, you know, a possible threat or break-in, a home invasion, these kind of things. You know, ultimately having these things just really gives you a little bit of peace of mind. You know, when I'm not home, I can check on my house, make sure nobody's snooping around. If somebody's walking up to my door, I can see who that is. You know, I can contact the neighbor if I feel uneasy about something, to go challenge them, as we like to say. You know, just go up to, hey, how's it going? How can I help you? You know, you're looking for this person. You know, all these things help to minimize, you know, let's face it, in today's day and age, theft is on the rise. Violence is on the rise. It's good to be prepared. Things like this definitely help you. Now, as far as the setup, I told the company I'm going to go ahead and mention the setup on this thing. Really, what you're going to do is download the app. Once you download the app, again, charge this up, get it plugged in, give it a good charge. You know, whenever I get anything new, I let it run, you know, charge for a good 8 hours, whether you need it or not. Give it a good solid charge. Figure out where you want to mount it, but I would encourage you to first set it up on your network, so you're not trying to set it up once you mount this thing. These are outdoor cameras, of course, so depending on where you're going to mount this, depending on your Wi-Fi signal, you know, you may have a weak signal. Remember, it's a two-way communication with these things. Just because your Wi-Fi penetrates far outside your house, it doesn't mean the little camera can communicate back. The great thing about this is what I like to see on cameras like this is dual antennas. It does make a difference. I've replaced a lot of the antennas on like my Zomatos, which allow you to change the antenna with higher gain antennas. And again, some brands, remember, it really comes down to testing. I've had some brands that have dual antennas where the Wi-Fi is terrible on them. So it just depends on your house, your construction, location of your router. All these things are factors, and just kind of keep that in mind when you are installing this, to try to install it in a place where, you know, go ahead and download another free app, which is like a Wi-Fi signal strength test app, and just make sure you're getting it somewhere where you have good signal. The nice thing about it, if you are mounting this thing kind of like at the 10-foot level, which is what I recommend, matter where you're mounting these things, you're going to get a pretty good view of what's going on the ground. It's out of reach from possible tampering. Again, nothing's, you know, guaranteed. Somebody can whack it with a broom if they want to do that. You know, again, but I find 10 feet is a really great level to really be able to see what's going on. When you start to get higher than that, you're just getting a really broad image, you know. But again, mount it where you feel most comfortable. I definitely recommend you get an SD card. Too bad they didn't give you the SD card. Those are so cheap. It would be nice for them to throw in just a simple 16 gig micro SD card. I don't think you really need 128. You know, I think it's depending on where you're going to mount in this. I mean, I don't know how far you're going to have to go back. I think a week's record time is enough, but again, depends on the resolution you're recording, depends on how much action's going on. All these things are factors. When in doubt, you could go with a larger card. But it would be nice if they threw in a 32 gig. I mean, I think that's fine. That's what I use in most of my cameras. So, but overall, I mean, again, great quality, feels solid. It's just really huge. Which could be a good thing and a bad thing. Some people don't want something like this on their house and be like, oh man, it's so noticeable. But to me, I like cameras that are, especially outdoors, you know, on the inside, and you know, I don't want this in my living room, right? But with something outdoor, I want somebody who might be thinking about doing something to be walking up and see the camera. You know, I want them to be able to say, all right, this guy's got some video surveillance. Maybe I need to rethink this. You know, it doesn't mean they will, but I like it. It's a visual deterrent. So as far as the install in the app, download the app, get the camera set up on your network, and basically what you're going to do is when you go to add the device, it'll ask you what device are you adding. You'll select the device from the list. Some apps will actually pull up the device specifically because it'll search for it. Other devices you'll select, you know, Yeskamo battery powered camera. You'll select that. It'll basically make a connection to the camera through the app. It'll disconnect you from Wi-Fi, from your own Wi-Fi at some point. And basically what it's going to do is connect to the camera. It's going to ask you what network do you want to connect to. You'll select your own network. You probably don't have, you know, several. It'll be one SSID. Connect to your network, add your Wi-Fi credentials. It'll communicate that to the camera, and it'll let you know through the app whether it's connected to your network or not. If you have a problem connecting, again, most likely the most common problem is that 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. Make sure you're connecting to the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi frequency. Other than that, that's really about it. If you have other issues, you know, besides that, I can't really help you with that. I mean, you can drop me a comment, drop me an email. I'll try to help you, but these things usually work pretty well. I don't think you're going to have any kind of issues. So anyway, guys, I want to thank Yeskamo for their generosity in sending this to me. Pretty cool camera. Looks very solid again, very robust. Nice presence on the house if that's what you're going for. And click the link in the description. Check it out. If I can help you in any way, let me know. As always, guys, have a great day and take care.